Hey, what's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike is here, and we are in week 2 of Double Oscar Rewind. Hopefully, you are finding ways to beat the heat with some of these classics. Today is day 31. It is the penultimate episode in my Director's series, which was June's theme. Now, for those who may be joining us for the first time, here on Oscar Rewind, I revisit the films that reflect the work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. I dig deep into those IMDb profiles, and my hope is that you will discover a new, older favorite, or maybe revisit something that you haven't seen in a while. As always, I'll be discussing the recent Oscar connection, awards history for the film, box office information, critical response, and as always, these reviews are spoiler-free. Now, before we jump in, do me a favor, make sure you click that subscribe button. You definitely want to be a part of all the cinematic goodness coming here on Rewind this season. All right, so today, I am revisiting the director and cinema that actually took my views to the highest of any video I have posted in the last 3 or so years. And I'm looking at the beautiful Brazilian filmmaking of Walter Salles. Now, going back almost 3 decades, I am looking at Sony Picture Classics' Central Station. Released domestically in the fall of 1998, the film was written by the team of João Emanuel Carneiro and Marcos Bernstein, based on a story by the film's director, Salles. Now, after its theatrical run, the film reported a domestic take of $5,969,553, with an additional international take of $12,446, resulting in a worldwide total of $5,981,999. Now, critically, I believe this film may be the highest I've discussed on both sides this season, with a 94% of the 50 critical reviews being positive for that high score on Rotten Tomatoes, and culled from over 10,000 audience reviews. The film sits with a 95%. Award season-wise, Central Station capped its season with 2 Oscar nominations, one for star Fernanda Montenegro in the Best Actress category, and the film was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film. Other highlights include 3 wins by the National Board of Review, Best Actress for Montenegro, Best Foreign Language Film, and it was named one of the top foreign films of that year. Salles was nominated for Best Foreign Film at the Independent Spirit Awards and at the César Awards in France, and won this prize at the Golden Globes and the BAFTAs. Montenegro also received accolades, being nominated at the Golden Globes and by the National Society of Film Critics. All of this among several other nods and wins across varied festivals and award shows. So, why is it here? Well, Salles repeated history this past season for directing the Oscar-nominated I'm Still Here, which won Best International Feature Film, as well as being nominated for Best Picture, and a nomination for Best Actress for Fernanda Torres, the real-life daughter of Fernanda Montenegro. So, we had some history repeating there. Now, while Salles did not directly receive the Oscar for the International Feature Award, it goes to Brazil, he still qualified in this Director's Month. He was the one that brought that film to us. And, in fact, this film was really the talk of the award season in a way, because this was the first time that a Brazilian film had been nominated since Central Station almost 30 years ago. And Torres was only the second Brazilian actress nominated after her mother made history by being the first. So we're kind of coming a little full circle here. And fun fact, if you remember, I'm Still Here. For that review, you can check out in Award Season Review Season 3. But Fernanda Montenegro had a small role playing the older version of Fernanda Torres in I'm Still Here. But let's get into Central Station. This film, right off the bat, we meet Dora, played by Montenegro, a retired elementary school teacher who makes ends meet by sitting day after day in the central train station in Rio, composing letters for the illiterate citizens, and sometimes actually mailing them. However, sometimes she doesn't, truly believing she has her reasons for why she does what she does. The one she doesn't mail, she kind of keeps hidden, and she goes on her day-to-day. Now, one day, Anna, played by Soya Lira, arrives with her son Josue, played by Vinicius de Oliveira. And they ask Dora to take a letter that needs to be sent to her former partner, Jesus. Now, this letter is less than flattering, and it becomes one that Dora figures, maybe let's not send it. The next day, Anna comes back and asks that letter be destroyed and composes a new one that's a little more hopeful. basically the gist is that she wants Jesus to meet their son, Josue, who, they've never met. He's about 9 years old. They have not met one another. Now, shortly after this encounter, Anna is tragically killed in a bus accident outside the station, leaving Josue alone. Dora, taking pity on him, takes him in, but only briefly before she, talks with someone else who works in the station and realizes, well, there's an opportunity here, and she traffics him to a rather sketchy couple and attempts to move on, but she's quickly called out by her best friend, Irene, played by Marilia Pera, and so she goes back and kind of steals Josue in the night, although this puts risk on her now because she literally stole this kid back that she received funding for, and she decides to go off and help him find his father. And from here, we will follow these two unlikely travel companions. We'll see them travel by bus, by truck, by foot, and any other means necessary, trying to get to one place with the small glimmer they have of where he might be. Now, to say that this trip is not easy would be an understatement, as they have to deal with several issues related to money, meeting some interesting characters along the way who may or may not always seem to have the most honorable intentions. And as they go, they do begin to forge something a little bit deeper despite the struggles they had at the jump. Here's the thing. Salles has crafted an honest portrayal of his countryside, and in this road trip film, he shows the good and the bad and everything in between. From the opening film scenes, in Rio, as we see the struggles, as we encounter people getting punished for something as small as stealing a radio from a train station store, to addressing child trafficking, which tragically still an issue in Brazil. The good, the bad, the in between, seeing what is happening in society, the culture shifts at the time. And yet, as we go on this, cinematographer Walter Carvalho fills the screen with these sweeping rural Brazilian countryside images. Especially it's really beautiful when you're following along in the bus with Dora and Josue. They're trying to find the father. And, whether we follow them walking through a massive religious pilgrimage in a small town, or sitting in a small bus stop restaurant, or sitting out on the curb looking out into the vastness, you feel both the intense and sparse environments that reflect these challenges they're going through. And, even though we've seen films of this, ilk before, Salles subverts some of the expectations, because Dora is, I'm not going to spoil too much, but she's not your traditional woman with the heart of gold. Look, she was very quick to sell this kid to traffickers and even tries to abandon him a few times. And also Josue, he's got a lot going on. He's never met his father. His mother just tragically died, and he's dealing with all these adults that don't seem to be upfront. So he kind of has a reason for that chip on his shoulder, but he does not make it easy to become a travel companion of his. So, as the film progressed, I wasn't sure about halfway through if we were going to reach a satisfying conclusion or not, and I'm not going to say either way. So this was one way that Salles really kept you on the hook as you're following this story. Montenegro is a powerhouse. She presents this truly conflicted central character who, when she experiences some, the changes as her character begins to go a certain way, sometimes these are so subtle you don't even realize it until we get towards a latter part in the film. And Oliveira, who was discovered by Salles at an airport, he's so soulful. This young kid, I can't say enough how wonderful and captivating he is. And for his first film role, it's really something to be seen. And while at times the film, it does drag a little bit. Maybe I felt it was a little too long at times. We get this really powerful story of survival, human connection, and these are things that are often, the struggle as we follow this almost documentary style approach to the settings that we're in. For me, I'm going to stop it there. Central Station, powerful 4-star film. It was one of those films that has been on my watch list for a while, even before, I'm still here. I'm glad I finally caught up with it. One of the reasons I was so delayed is because I was trying to see if it would come on a streaming service, on a platform. It's not. So if you would like to see Central Station, if you haven't, it is available for digital rental or purchase on most platforms, but there's no streaming information. All right. So we have one more director to look at before I take us into the writers, which will take us into mid-August. As always, if you like what you heard here, please do me a favor, click that button, subscribe to the channel, like, share the video, spread the word. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd, and find lots of great additional content on my website, cinephilemike.com. All right, happy watching, everyone, and until next time, it's a Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.